At 82, I've learned a lot about life, some things the hard way. And today, I want to share one of the biggest regrets of my life with you. You see, a few years ago, I made a decision that I thought was the right one. My family thought so too. They said it would be easier for me, safer, more comfortable. So I moved into a nursing home. At first, it seemed like a good choice. No more worrying about daily chores, no more struggling with little things around the house. But the reality? Well, that was something I wasn't prepared for. And if you're thinking about this option for yourself or a loved one, I need you to hear me out before making a decision. Because once you step into a nursing home, life as you know it changes, and not always for the better. So, today I'm going to share 6 things no one told me before I moved in. 6 regrets that changed the way I see aging, independence, and what truly matters in life. I'm not here to scare you, and I'm not saying that nursing homes are bad for everyone. But before you make a choice that could change your life forever, you deserve to know what it's really like. And if you're listening to this right now, I'd love to know, where are you tuning in from? Comment below and share your city. I always enjoy hearing from you. And don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more tips like these. Trust me, you don't want to miss what's coming up next. The first regret I want to talk about, the one that hit me the hardest, was losing my independence. Losing my independence was the hardest part of moving into a nursing home. I didn't expect it to happen so fast, and I certainly didn't think it would feel the way it did. Before I moved in, I had my routines. I decided when to wake up, when to eat, and how to spend my day. If I wanted to go for a walk, I could. If I felt like staying up late with a good book, no one stopped me. My home, my rules. But inside the nursing home, everything changed. Suddenly, my life was on a schedule that wasn't mine. Meals were served at set times, whether I was hungry or not. Lights out was decided for me, even if I wasn't ready to sleep. And simple things I never thought twice about, became privileges instead of choices. I remember my first morning there. I woke up early like I always did at home. I reached for my book, only to realize it wasn't on my nightstand. In fact, nothing in that room really felt like mine. The furniture was chosen for me. The walls were bare. It was clean, sure, but it wasn't home. I thought I'd get used to it. That's what people told me. You'll adjust, they said. And in some ways, I did. But what I really did was stop fighting it. I stopped asking if I could go outside whenever I wanted because I got tired of waiting for someone to be available to help me. I stopped requesting different meals because it didn't seem worth the trouble. I stopped making decisions because, over time, I had fewer and fewer to make. And here's what no one tells you. Once you give up your independence, getting it back is almost impossible. You think you're making things easier, but really, you're giving away control over your own life. And you don't realize how much that matters until it's gone. If you're thinking about moving into a nursing home, ask yourself, are you ready to live by someone else's schedule? Are you ready to let go of the small freedoms that make life yours? Because once they're gone, you'll miss them more than you ever thought possible. The second regret that weighed heavily on me was feeling forgotten. I never expected it. In fact, when I first moved into the nursing home, my family reassured me that nothing would change. They promised they would visit often, call regularly, and make sure I never felt alone. And in the beginning, they did. My daughter would stop by once a week. My grandkids would visit on the weekends, and for a while, it felt like I still had a connection to my old life. But as time went on, the visits became less frequent. My daughter got busy with work, my grandkids had school and activities, and slowly the calls replaced the visits. At first, I told myself it was just temporary, that they'd be back next week. Then next week turned into next month. And before I knew it, I was spending more time watching the door than actually seeing anyone walk through it. Holidays were the hardest. I remember one Thanksgiving sitting in the common room, watching other residents stare at the entrance, waiting for their families to arrive. Some did, most didn't. I saw the look on their faces when the realization hit, no one was coming. And then I understood something painful. It wasn't that my family didn't love me. It was just that life moved on. When you're not around every day, people assume you're fine. They tell themselves you're adjusting, that you have friends in the nursing home, that you don't need them as much. But the truth is, no matter how much your family loves you, once you're out of sight, it's easy to become out of mind. I remember one evening sitting in my room, holding my phone, debating whether to call my son. I didn't want to seem needy. I didn't want to remind him that I was here, waiting for a visit that might never come. So I put the phone down, and that's when it hit me. This was my life now, watching the days pass, hoping someone would remember to include me. If you're considering a nursing home, ask yourself, are you prepared for the loneliness? Because no matter how much your family loves you, once you leave home, you might find yourself waiting for a visit that never comes. The third regret I never saw coming was losing my sense of purpose. When I moved into the nursing home, I thought I was just changing where I lived. I didn't realize I was also changing why I lived. At home, I had responsibilities, small things, but they mattered. Watering my plants, making my own coffee, tidying up my space. These little routines gave me a reason to start the day. But in the nursing home, all of that disappeared. Meals were made for me. My room was cleaned by someone else. The plants, well, they weren't mine to take care of anymore. At first, I told myself it was a relief. No more chores, no more responsibilities, just time to relax. But after a few weeks, I realized something was missing. The days felt long, stretched out with nothing to do but wait. Wait for meals, wait for medication, wait for visitors. And I wasn't the only one who felt this way. I remember George, an 84-year-old man who had been a carpenter his whole life. At home, he was always fixing things, building little projects in his garage. But here, there were no tools, no projects, nothing for him to create. I watched as his hands, once strong and skilled, became idle. And one day, he said to me, "I feel useless." And I knew exactly what he meant. Purpose isn't just about having a job or big responsibilities. It's about having something to care for, something that makes you feel needed. When you take that away, life starts to lose its meaning. The mind slows down, the body follows, and soon you start to feel like just another name on a list. I saw it happen to people around me. Women who had spent their whole lives taking care of their families, now sitting in silence with no one to care for. Men who had worked hard their entire lives, now left with nothing to work toward. The energy, the passion, the reason to get up every morning, it faded, and it scared me. If you're thinking about moving into a nursing home, ask yourself, what gives your life meaning? Because once you move in, finding purpose isn't as simple as filling your time. It's about fighting to hold on to the things that make you feel alive. The fourth regret that caught me off guard was how quickly my health started to decline. Before I moved into a nursing home, I was doing well for my age. I wasn't running marathons, but I could take care of myself. I walked every day, cooked my own meals, and kept myself moving. I had little routines that kept me active: grocery shopping, stretching in the morning, even just walking around the house to keep my legs strong. But once I moved in, everything changed. At first, it seemed nice meals were brought to me. I didn't have to clean, and if I needed something, I could just press a button and someone would come help. It felt easy, but what I didn't realize was that the easier things got, the weaker I became. I stopped moving as much, and before I knew it, my legs felt stiffer. I sat more than I used to, and suddenly, getting up from a chair became a struggle. The muscles I had spent years maintaining were disappearing faster than I ever expected. And it wasn't just me. I saw it happen to others too. People who walked in on their own 2 feet were suddenly relying on walkers, then wheelchairs. People who had once been independent now needed help with things they never struggled with before. And the more help they got, the more they seemed to need it. I remember my neighbor Alice, an 81-year-old woman who was full of energy when she first arrived. She used to take daily walks around the facility, insisting that she wasn't going to slow down just because of a number. But after a few months, I noticed she wasn't walking as much. Then she started using a walker, then a wheelchair. One day, she looked at me and said, I don't know when it happened, but I feel like I aged 10 years in just a few months. And that's exactly what it felt like. When you stop using your body, you start losing it. And in a nursing home, where everything is designed to make things easier, it's easy to forget that movement isn't just about convenience, it's about survival. If I had known how quickly I would lose my strength, I would have fought harder to keep moving, to stay active, to push myself even when I didn't feel like it. So, if you're considering a nursing home, ask yourself, will you still have the motivation to keep your body strong when everything around you is designed to make life effortless? Because once you slow down, getting back up isn't as easy as you think. The fifth regret that I never truly considered before moving in was the loss of privacy and dignity. At home, I had my own space. I could close my bedroom door whenever I wanted. I could sit in silence if I needed to, take a shower when I felt like it, and do things on my own terms. But in a nursing home, privacy is a luxury one that you don't always get to keep. From the moment I arrived, I felt like I was constantly being watched. Staff came in and out of my room throughout the day. There were scheduled room checks and shared spaces where you were rarely alone. Even simple things like getting dressed or using the bathroom often required someone's assistance. I knew they were just doing their job, but it didn't change how it felt. The hardest part was needing help for things I had done independently my entire life. Want to take a shower? You might have to wait until someone is available to assist you. Need to use the restroom? Sometimes pressing the call button means waiting longer than you'd like. Even meal choices were limited. If you don't like what's on the menu that day, too bad. And then there's the issue of roommates. Not everyone gets a private room, and sharing a space with a stranger is not the same as living with a spouse or family. I was lucky to have a kind roommate, but I heard stories from others who weren't so fortunate. Some had roommates who were loud, unclean, or suffered from cognitive issues that made sleep nearly impossible. No matter how much you try to make your room feel like home, it never truly is. The walls aren't yours to decorate as you please. The bed isn't the one you slept in for years. And no matter how many times you try to tell yourself you're settling in, deep down, you know this is not your space. Dignity is a hard thing to lose. And I didn't realize how much of mine I'd have to surrender until I was already there. When people knock, but don't always wait for an answer before coming in, when you're spoken to like a patient instead of a person, when your daily routines are dictated by a schedule you didn't create, it changes you. You start feeling less like yourself. If you're considering a nursing home, ask yourself, are you prepared to give up the privacy and control you've had your entire life? Because once it's gone, it's hard to get back. The sixth regret, the one I never truly understood until it was too late, was realizing that leaving a nursing home is much harder than you think. When I first moved in, I told myself it was temporary. I thought I'd give it a try, see how things went, and if I didn't like it, I could always leave. That's what I told myself. That's what my family told me. But what none of us realized was just how difficult it would be to get out once I was in. At first it seemed simple. If I didn't like it, I'd just go back home. But then I started to see the obstacles, the ones no one talks about. My house had been sitting empty, and maintaining it from a distance became difficult. My children had already started making changes, selling things they thought I wouldn't need, even considering renting out the place. And when I brought up the idea of returning home, they hesitated. "Are you sure you can manage on your own?" they asked. "Wouldn't it be safer to stay? We just want what's best for you." And then there was my health. After months of living in a place where I didn't have to cook, clean, or even walk very far, I wasn't as strong as I used to be. The independence I once had was slipping away, and that made the idea of living alone seem overwhelming. The very things that were supposed to help me, having meals prepared, getting assistance when I needed it, had actually made me more dependent, and that dependence kept me stuck. I met others who had the same experience. They thought they were just trying the nursing home for a little while, only to realize that leaving wasn't as easy as they had imagined. The longer they stayed, the harder it became to adjust to life outside. Some even lost the option entirely, Once their home was sold or their savings were drained by the cost of care, there was no going back. That's the part no one tells you. Moving in feels like a decision you can reverse, but for most people, it isn't. The nursing home slowly becomes your whole world, and before you know it, the life you once knew starts to feel like a distant memory. So, if you're considering a nursing home, ask yourself, are you prepared for the possibility that once you go in, leaving might not be as simple as you think? Because once you settle in, the barriers to leaving, whether financial, physical, or emotional, can be much harder to overcome than you ever expected. Looking back, I don't regret growing older. Aging is a privilege that not everyone gets. But I do regret believing that a nursing home was my only option. I walked in expecting comfort, safety, and a better quality of life. What I found instead was a world that slowly took away my independence, my privacy, my purpose, and even my sense of self. I never thought that moving into a nursing home would make me feel less like me, but it did. Now, does that mean nursing homes are all bad? Not necessarily. Some people genuinely need the level of care they provide, and for some it may be the right choice. But before you make that decision, I want you to think carefully about what you're giving up, because once you move in, life will never be the same. If I could do it over, I would have fought harder to stay in my own home. I would have looked for more ways to get help without giving up my freedom. I would have asked more questions, weighed my options, and made sure I truly needed to be there before making such a permanent move. And if you're facing this decision right now, I hope you take the time to ask yourself, is this truly what's best for me, or is it just what seems easiest right now? Because the life you have today, your routines, your independence, your choices, is worth holding on to for as long as you can. Now, I'd love to hear from you. Have you or someone you love ever considered a nursing home? What are your thoughts after hearing my story? Share your experience in the comments below. I read every single one, and your words matter. And if you found this video helpful, please take a moment to like, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs to hear this. Your support helps us continue creating content to inform and inspire. Thank you for spending this time with me today. Take care, and I'll see you in the next video.